to record. Again, thanks for coming to Monday Night Chat with SK. I am SK, Shimona Kirkley, and the Monday Night Chat is a bunch of us coming together about conversations that sometimes we have and sometimes we don't have, but they are things that we deal with day to day. Today, we're talking about self-motivation. Now, most of our Monday Night Chats and most of my network is full of entrepreneurs and people who are dreamers, inspirers, people who are pushing forward in some way or in some capacity. But also anyone who is a living being in today's society is looking to push forward in something in their lives. And to do that, sometimes you look for others or you look for outside gratification. But the thing that's going to get you to the finish line, I think, is having that self-motivation. What makes you tick? How do you push yourself through when nobody else is around? How do you push through when things are looking bleak? We just went through a pandemic. A lot of people's businesses, struggled during that time because nobody was outside. Nobody really was focused on certain products or services. So I'm going to introduce you guys to my panelists who are entrepreneurs in their own industries, and they're going to talk about what makes them keep pushing through, how they push through, and what are some of the things that they habitually do to make sure that they get things done and they continue to breathe into their dreams and aspirations. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Panelists, we can start in alphabetical order. So Joe, you're first.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you, Shimona and fellow panelists. I'm happy to join you all this evening. My name is Joe Herrera. I am one of the partners at Underdog Strategies. I worked with actually Shimona and a couple of people, Denixa and Joe, at Families for Excellent Schools in the past. So it's great to see some fellow coworkers here. Just a little bit about me. I single dad, worked as an organizer and started my own firm in 2018 when the organization that I worked for unfortunately closed down. So I started a firm, Underdog Strategies, which is a political consulting and campaign firm that works with candidates, organizations, and businesses to, we do marketing, digital advocacy, organizing, and canvassing. So basically we're like experts at crafting a message and disseminating that message to a community that you want to share it with. So it's a little bit about me and the organization Underdog Strategies.
Thank you, Joe. Nessie, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Shimona, for having me. My name is Nessie Alam, and I am one of the co-founders of a social community platform called I Am Perspective. We are essentially in the business of bringing people of different backgrounds together to have those much needed conversations to create more empathy and awareness. I've been doing this since 2018. And so it's been a lot of up and downs through the last few years and a lot of reinventing. But, as things keep moving, you got to keep going with the flow. So it has shifted from just conversations. We do DEI work. We're in the school systems, we're working in the corporate systems, and we're, still doing our community service work. So shifting as you're growing, right? So thank you for having me, and I'm excited for the conversation.
Thank you, Nessie. And we have our girl, Twyla Joy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Twyla Joy Summersell. I am one of the two members of For the Love of Music, a vocal coaching company. I'm a professional vocal coach, a singer, songwriter, arranger, producer, pretty much anything that someone might need in order, I hate how you do Vance, in order to bring about an idea musically, figure out what they want to do with it, create it, and bring it forward. Shimona is actually one of my voice clients. She has a phenomenal voice for anyone here that may not know that. And Nessie, I wanted to mention that I actually participated in one of the I Am Perspective events a couple of years ago before COVID.
I think I was like, you seem familiar. Your name seems familiar.
Yeah, I remember that it was a beautiful event. But yeah, so I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
And Twyla and Nessie also share very intimate connection with me as well. I can't really share, you got to experience it. Sorry, guys. But yes, we have a very, very intimate connection through another social community group. So thank you to my panelists. Now, you guys have heard the awesome things that they do and the talent they bring to the table. But what you don't know is the day-to-day things that they go through to get there, to build their brand, to expand their brands, to get through the day-to-day, to get through the ups and downs, the struggles of entrepreneurship. Look, I feel butterflies and anxiety daily doing these Monday night chats because I have to show and prove every week. I have to outdo myself. And when you're competing with yourself, that is a lot. So I know the feeling, and I know how, if you don't create some type of systems or work at this, sometimes it gets bleak and sometimes it gets lonely and sad and it gets hard. But, in those moments, you have to create things to help you get through. So my panelists are going to talk to us a little bit about what helps them through their journey. Okay. I'm going to go through a series of questions with them. They're going to answer based on their particular industry and their own individual experience. And we're going to listen and we're going to support them and take some of this energy, because even though it's probably not your field of work, you can probably take some of the things that they're using and apply it to your current business or aspiration. Okay. So panelists, are you ready? So how this works, because this is the first time I've had 3 panelists. Told you I'm outdoing myself. I'm going to do alphabetical order to help it go seamlessly. So that means Joe will go first, Nessie you're second, Twyla you're last in the answers, okay? All right, so our first question of the evening is, and it's very simple. What does your morning routine look like?
Okay, morning routine. Wow. So I want to preface this with that this may not be the ideal routine for like Oprah. Okay. All right. There's some successful people and they're going to tell you they're like, this is their morning routine. They get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they go jog for 6 miles. And that's not me. So I just want to put that out there. I ain't getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm not running 6 miles. But however, I will say the most productive part of my day, I would say, is like somewhere between 8 to 12, right? And then anywhere before 8, I'm no good. And usually after 12, it just all starts to go downhill, right? So I know I have good 4 to 5 hours of like productivity in my brain. And normally what I do is I tend to get up. I usually get up around 7 o'clock a.m. I work for myself. So I work from home a lot of times. I'm kind of blessed and I don't have to get up at 7. I could probably push it to 9, but I do realize that I start setting a lot of my meetings up at 9 a.m. and I'd like a 2-hour gap to kind of get coffee in me and start planning those agendas before they actually happen, right? So I like an hour work block before any planned meeting. So that's one way to hold myself accountable. But I would say my morning routine very much looks like getting up around 7 a.m., drinking coffee, I feed my dog, right? Then I carry my dog up because the dog is going to follow me wherever I go into my office. And then I start just doing like admin work, right? And admin work is important because a lot of people just dive into, okay, here's my task for the day. But really, I think like what I do is plan out, this is what I need to do. So I'll literally start jotting down task by task in priority order for that day, and make sure that I prioritize which ones are the most important. And I make sure to give myself no more than 4 to 5 hours of tasks of work before some kind of break or, something that I need to do for me, whether it's meditation, exercise, whatever that may be. But that's what my morning would look like. And that coffee, feed the dog, write down my tasks and give myself an hour before any planned meetings so that you never want to go into a meeting and draft an agenda and try to wing it. You definitely want to have prep and act like you know what you're talking about. And it usually takes me about an hour to really know what I'm talking about on these calls. So I give myself about an hour, and I make sure that throughout my calls for the day, if I have 3 or 4 calls, that I'm giving myself that half hour to an hour between those calls to really prep for them. Because as a consultant, a lot of times they tell you what they want to talk about the day of. And although you're an expert in this category, sometimes you really want to customize that conversation for that client. And you definitely want about an hour prep time in order to do so.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Joe. Nessie, what does your morning routine look like?
My morning shifts from day to day. I have such a varied schedule, so it really depends. I am also kind of like Joe. I wish I was getting up at a really early time and doing like yoga and meditation and working out and all of that. And it doesn't always happen that way. But coffee is definitely essential. I also like to give myself enough time to kind of not have to rush and get ready. So that gives me enough time to kind of just like, I don't write a list usually, but I'm kind of more in my head about like how the day is going to look, what the scheduling of that will look like. I try to plan a little bit around anything that might rise up, just, like as a precaution, when I know that something could go awry, right? And so really giving myself a little bit of time in the morning so I'm not rushing anywhere. Sometimes I am rushing because, I have somewhere to be. The summertime is a lot easier to get up than the winter time. I will say that I kind of rise up with the sun, and it definitely does something different to my energy. I can definitely like wake up a lot earlier. I find myself waking up a lot earlier. And so, yeah, that's my routine. It's not a routine that I recommend for everybody. It's, everyone has their own way of what that would look like. But I am the most effective in the morning. And so I recognize that. And so all the heavy stuff has to get done in the morning. And then later in the day, I can do kind of some of the mindless work that I don't have to think as much as I would in the morning time. So.
Thank you, Nessie.
Now that it's 8 o'clock, I don't know where I am. I'm just letting you know about that.
You are here.
Yes.
Twyla, what does your morning routine look like?
Okay, well, kind of like Nessie, it kind of shifts from day to day. But also like Joe, I like to just kind of have a little list of the necessary things I have to take care of. But the first thing that happens, or the first things I do, it kind of depends on what my sleep was like. And by that, I mean, if I had some kind of a dream that I know was perceptive, or that I know had some things I needed to learn from it, or that I needed to sit down and process, I'll take a second and kind of just go through what I was dreaming about and what that might mean for me. And I also get music in my dreams. So sometimes the first thing I do in the morning is just record whatever musical ideas came from that dream. And also just write down whatever ideas came from my dreams as well. I also try to pray first thing in the morning. If those things don't happen, first thing I do is I say a prayer. I just thank God for being awake, and just ask him to guide my day, lead my day, help me to do the things that are most important for not just for me, but like for the world. And also, like Nessie said, heavy in the morning. I need to do the heavy things, or the important things, earlier in the day. And then usually in the evening is more the creative things I tend to get done in the evening time. But I'm a late nighter, and I'm trying to change that. And then I'm also trying to decide, is that who I am? Like, do I just need to accept that I'm not going to get up early? So I'm still kind of making sense of what works best for me. And as an entrepreneur, that's usually what it is, because we're not forced to get up at 8 a.m. to go to work. We don't have a clock in, clock out situation. So, or at least not all of us do. So, I have to set up a schedule that works best for what I'm doing, and for me, and for just who I am. So I'm still in the process of making sense of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Twyla. I'm going to be honest. I don't get up in the morning anymore. You won't see anything from me till after 12. Sorry. No, I'm a night owl. I do most of I'm most productive after midnight for some reason. I get most creative. I don't know if anybody's ever seen like a 2 a.m. email from me or 4 o'clock in the morning post on Instagram. That's just me. But I did learn something from a specialist in social media. She said the best time to post something on social media is 9 a.m. I'm like, how? But people get to work, clock in their jobs and go on social media. Yeah, bad people, bad people. But they're traveling from 7 to 9, and then they're probably sleeping anytime before that, and they're in the shower. But when they get clocked in, they at work, they're not worried about travel or anything. They pick up that phone, start scrolling before they get to their jobs. So that's the moment they're going to see your post or your promotions or anything between 9 and 9:30 a.m. So I got that from a professional social media person. So that's a tip for you guys. So my next question, and you guys are good. You guys went through my second question already, so I don't even got to do that. So we talked, because you guys kind of alluded to like 3 of my questions already, but there are like tools that people assume that entrepreneurs are supposed to do, right? We talked about, I'm not a 3 a.m. person and getting up and jogging and all that, right? But what are some underrated tools that are indispensable for your work? Joe, you're first.
Underrated tools that are indispensable for my work. This may be a little bit more customized to the category of work that I do. So I will say so a couple of things. ClickUp is a one of these I want to say like a task, like one of those task list websites. They have a couple, monday.com. I'm pretty sure all of you have received some kind of advertisement from things like this. Depending on how you work, right? So for me as a consultant, I usually work with campaigns, candidates, work on multiple teams, right? So if I'm doing a field program and I want the communications and the campaign, like the comms team and the campaign team, and I want multiple people to see what I'm doing, right? So I think like having a good, the one I use is ClickUp. It's like almost if I'm setting up a project that multiple teams have to collaborate on, I can assign each project and a deadline and a timeline to different people on different teams. It's really good if you have multiple different types of teams working on a project together. So you can share to-do lists, deadlines, owners, supporters. You can literally designate all that within the system. So again, that's called ClickUp. I find it really helpful for like consultant work if you need to work with multiple teams across a different project, right? So let's say we're setting up an event and you have a comms team that has to post on social media. You have a field team that needs to disseminate this information amongst the community. You have a policy team that needs to reach out to elected officials about this event and try to get them this sign on, whatever it is. We would have multiple teams sharing that to-do list, and then we set a bunch of items and choose owners and deadlines and so forth. So I think that is one. Another one simply is like Google Sheets. I feel like a lot of when I run a lot of like field programs, right? And Google Sheets is something, well, one, it saves data real time. I feel like you can do so much on this. If I need to run payroll, if I need to set up a field program or anything like that, like Google Sheets to me is just something that I use a lot. And I use amongst different types of categories, whether I'm setting a project plan, whether I'm setting up a field plan and need to track people where they're at every day, what times they're at, where the locations they're at, the results that they're getting, how many doors they knocked, how many conversations they had, how many results have they gotten. I can track all that in a Google Sheet and share it amongst multiple people. So I think Google Sheets is another area. But I would say any tool that allows me to work with other people that I share that tool with live and saves that data live, right? Anybody has been to school and had those thumb drives and did a 6-hour project and lost that thumb drive, and you're like, no, I gotta start over from scratch.
Yeah,
right.
That's
so
why I've used Google.
It automatically saves it. It's to a cloud. You can never lose the cloud. You can always access the cloud and get that information back. And so anything that allows me to share with multiple teams and is a good resource like Google Sheets or even that ClickUp. I think those are two tools that work really well for me as a consultant.
Awesome. Thank you. Nessie.
Yes, I was actually just sitting here thinking, like, what are my favorite apps? LastPass. At this time, I have so many passwords to remember, I really just cannot, right? And so LastPass is very effective. Every single time I have to sign up on a new website, I have to put in a new something, and I just save it on there. And so trying to save myself the hassle of forget password over and over again, right? Because I do that way too often. The other tool is Evernote. I have a ton of information, a ton of work with I Am Perspective, but also even my writing with the poetry and the the other work that I do. And so saving everything on Evernote, you can organize by notebooks. And it's Evernote is essentially that's supposed to always be there, like ever, right? And so those are the two tools that I think I really highly value the most. The other thing I know you kind of mentioned tools, but I want to really go into what qualities, but I'm going to defer to you first, unless that's a different conversation, this different question that you want to ask.
Yeah, I'll hold that one because I want that one too. I'll hold that one. Twyla, we still got you?
Yes.
So you got it. What underrated tools are indispensable for your work?
Okay, well, mine are a little bit basic. The first one is just if you have an iPhone, just their notes, because now they offer this possibility for you to share your notes. So what I have started to do with some of my clients, and then also some of the musicians I work with, is create a shared note, and we'll just put together a list of the songs that we want to practice or work on, and we can update the list and it updates pretty quickly as well. So I guess it's kind of like some of those Google Share, different things as well. But a tool that's not necessarily, I guess, software or an app per se, but is just something that's been really helpful for me is for my business in general is what's the word? Open mic events. So open mics have been, as a tool, has been very helpful for me as a vocal coach, because I go to these events and I'll perform. And once I perform, that in and of itself is, part of me sharing what I'm capable of doing. And then I tell folks that I'm a vocal coach, and then I give them my social media handles. And from there, folks are very interested, even singers that have already performed, artists, they're like, hey, look, I've actually been looking for a vocal coach, and great, and here I am. So I would say about 40% of my clients come from attending showcases and open mic events all throughout the Queens and Brooklyn area. So it's just a good tool. I don't necessarily do it just for that. I love to attend them, but it also really helps with business.
Yeah, sometimes, those events are truly important. When I used to do hair a little bit more than I do it now. I don't do it as much, but I was my own walking billboard. People would see my hair. Who did your hair? Me. You did your own hair? Can you do my hair? Money in the pocket. There we go. So sometimes showing your talent and showing your gift can bring you more clients.
Definitely.
Thank you. And I'll last. So my next question is a little bit more. When I was thinking about questions, right? There are some things like for me that come up, right? And like emotionally, sometimes I'm like, this was supposed to be a month thing. Then I said, you know what? Let me see this through and see what I can do, right? And now Monday Night Chat is 2 months old. And so some things come up for me every week when I'm having to do the next one. And it's, what is my relationship, or what is my meaning of failure? Like if I stop today, is that failure? And so what does failure mean to you? Like, what does the word, not just failure in itself, like nobody wants to fail, but what does the word failure mean to you? We can start with you, Joe.
I'm I'm older now, right? So so this is I've grown over the years, and the word and the word's meaning has grown and what it means to me, right? So again, failure is like no one wants to fail. It is the epitome of like doing everything that you've prepared to do up until this moment, and then you see your dreams like leave you before your eyes. And that's the vision that I've always like that's what failure meant, right? You run that race, you lose. You play that game, you lose. You try to apply for that job, you don't get it. Like that's failure, right? And that's it. But it's not the end all be all. Failure is never the end all be all. Actually, it's probably it's to what it means to me is just one step closer to your goal, right? Like failure is the best teacher. Failure is evident, and if I tried to do a handstand right now, I'm gonna break my shit, right? Excuse my language. Like a couple of times, more than a couple of times. I'm be here for 6 months trying to do a headstand, breaking myself down, and then in month 7, I'm gonna master it for a couple of seconds and fall. In year 1 and year 3, by the time I'm year 3, like I've mastered the handstand. So what is failure? Failure is one step closer to learning. Well, one, failure has taught me so much. I try to run a marathon. I did. I just completed my last marathon. April 24th, Brooklyn Marathon. I should have signed up for the half. My body said, sign up for the half, Joe, you old. My mind said, Joe, you old, sign up for the half. But my heart was like, bro, you got this full marathon, 26.2 miles. And you know what happened is my body got through the half in record time. At mile 15, shit started breaking down. Both of my calves started cramping up. Mile 18, my hips started going. Mile 19, my knees were gone. Mile 23, I died, right? So between mile 23 and mile 26.2, like my soul carried me past that line. And I think like what that was, right, is I ran a couple of weeks before that, and I realized I learned through failure, right? I ran 11 miles. I was trying to do 13.1. I taught myself that I had to eat different things because after 2 hours of running, your body uses all of that food, right? So I learned that my nutrition was off. And I had to fix that in order to get to 14 miles. And then when I got to 14 miles, I was like, okay, I can do 26.2, but on the day of the marathon, really, I could only do 15, and I had to keep my mind. But really, like failure is a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn what you've done wrong, where you need to improve, where you need to improve, and to follow that roadmap to getting. The only time failure hurts you is when you give up.
Love it. Love it. Yes. Yes. Nessie, what does the word failure mean to you?
I was thinking a little bit deeply about this one while Joe was answering. Failure, I think, to me is giving up. And giving up does not mean, not giving up means reinventing yourself, right? So if something happens and it doesn't go your way, are you going to just let that happen to you, or are you going to try something different? Are you going to do something a little bit differently to make sure that you get a different result? I think when you finally give up, that's when, there's a conversation of failure. Sometimes it feels like we're failing at things when things are not going your way. But I don't really know, the word failure is not something that I really sat with, because for me, that's not really an option. I'm going to, if this one thing does not work out, it's going to be something else. Like I'm not there where I'm like, this is my end point. If it's not gonna, we started out in person and the whole goal was to get off the internet. And then, fast forward, we're pushed back right onto the internet. And it's like, well, is that a failure, or is it, just reinventing or a new opportunity to try something different? And so, yeah, not giving up, I think, or giving up would be failure, I guess. That would be my definition of that.
All right, Miss Twyla, what does the word failure mean to you?
It's crazy. Like hearing everyone say what they're saying, reading what folks are putting in the messages, and just for the first time really sitting down and thinking about that word, I just came to the realization that I actually don't believe in the term failure. Like I don't believe in it. I feel like in the closest thing to probably failing to me would be what I didn't see her name, what she put in the messages. Failure is just not trying. Because even when you try and you give up, like because you've learned so many things, you still haven't failed because you still grew. You know, like I feel like as long as growth is involved, you can't have failed. And as long as you're not dead, you know what I mean? Because you don't even die, you don't even fail when you die because you lived. So
Right.
I just don't see it. And you know, Miles Davis had a saying, he said, "Don't fear mistakes, there aren't any." You know,
Right.
like I've realized when I get on the piano, sometimes I'll mess up and play a chord that I wasn't supposed to play. And then that chord was beautiful. It was like, wait, what is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just
Use that.
yeah. And I had a very long relationship that ended, and someone might have called that a failure, but like, no, like I learned so many things. I experienced so many things in that relationship that prepared me for the healthy relationship that I'm now in. So I don't see that relationship as a failure either, because it didn't fail to teach me what I needed for the next thing. So it's like, I just feel like my perspective is, you know, and obviously there are very tangible things that you can say someone failed at, like you failed to win a tennis match, you know, like you lost that match or you failed or whatever, you know. So, but I just feel like it's really relative. And just me personally, I realize I don't even apply that idea, you know, and the closest thing probably to me would be not trying at all. It's like, okay, you fail to even try, you know.
Yeah.
That's probably anything else. Once it's something that you did, like you actually did it, then you could not have failed. You just didn't necessarily get all the way yet, because
Yeah.
failing is a part of success. So you know what I mean? It's not success or fail. It's like fail, 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 succeed. So I don't, it's hard for me to see it as failure the way that we have
Have
conditioned
been
that term.
taught, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we have been taught failure through our school system. You either pass or fail, right? There's no in between. There's no do-overs. There's no
Right.
A for effort, or how it was, the A for effort, E for effort, whatever. That we were taught that language. We were taught that ideal, and then we tried to apply it to adulthood and was told, and then realized it was a lie, right?
Yeah.
For me to have a relationship with failure is, everybody here knows I try everything. I try everything. I am in the studio recording music. I am a poet. I am writing a screenplay right now. I am doing Monday Night Chat as a communicator. I'm an organizer. I've worked on 2 campaigns, 2020 census and the T2 campaign the last year. I even work in the supermarket. I raised 2 kids alone. So for me, there is no failure in my life, because what are you going to base that on? What subject would you like to say that I failed? So my thing is, and like all of you said, failure is not trying, but if you get up in the morning and you took that breath, you have succeeded at something. You have succeeded at getting up and waking up and having the desire to live. And that is a success in itself, because now you get to choose your brand, or you get to choose your experience, because life is an experience, I say. Right? So we all succeed. That is the bottom line.
Period.
All right. So my next question is, what drives you to push forward through the tough times? Like, we all went through a tough time recently. I'm someone who deals with depression and anxiety. There are days when I don't want to go outside my room. I don't even want the window shades open. But I know that I have a family to provide for. I know I have children who look to me. I know I have things I promised myself. And so from your perspective, and you may not have the same challenges I have, what are some things that you do? What makes you push through, or what things did you do to push through the tough times? And Joe, we'll start with you again.
I think it's different times and different things in different times of my life. So currently, I was a single dad for a very long time, and I raised two boys, and I did so in a 1-bedroom apartment in a rent stabilized apartment in Brooklyn, New York. And I grew up in that apartment, and they grew up in that apartment. And I think what pushes me is to make sure that the next generation doesn't grow up in that apartment, right? And then that's the key, is right. Like, you want to change it. You want to change. You don't want to. My father died in prison of AIDS because he shot heroin in his arm, and I lost 6 uncles, right? I grew up without a father. So one of the key things for my kids was making sure that they don't grow up without a father. And I was there. They had a dad from the moment they was born to the moment they went off to college. I'm always looking to break cycles, right? So for me, it's like, break those cycles, break the cycles of poverty, break those cycles of mental illness, break those cycles of addiction, break those cycles every way I can. So one was being a dad to my to my kids, right, when I didn't have one. The next one is making sure that I have property. When I leave, that I can hand off real estate to my kids so I can start to build wealth within my family. I'm the first, person to graduate from college. I'm the first person to own a house. I'm the first person, to be there for my kids. So that, for me, it's all about breaking cycles. What motivates me is really like to be able to be the change that I didn't have when I was growing up. And I want to provide that much more for my kids so that they don't have to worry and have the same struggles when they grow up. Their kids will have what my kids didn't. And that's the way. That, for me, is the biggest motivation.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Nutty, what drives you to push forward through the tough time?
I think what keeps me going is really my underlying purpose behind the work that I do. It's a business now, but it just really started off as a community service project. And so this is always something that I was going to do, regardless whether I was making money from it or, or just doing it because I really do believe in the betterment of bringing people together and what that can create, right? Bringing more empathy, breaking barriers. And so I know that, at the end of the day, regardless, it's not the easiest thing to do because I do consider myself to be an empath, and there's so much always happening, and the work that I'm doing is definitely takes a lot of energy out of me. But it's really just about why am I doing this? And if I'm not doing this, then what else would I rather be doing? And it's always, this purpose that I have that I know I'm going to always come back to this, right? Because, I've worked in many different jobs throughout my life, and I've always felt like something was out of line with integrity, right? I've worked in the government, I've worked in private, I've worked in the school system, I've been everywhere. And this is the first time where I feel like there are days I don't want to work, there are days I don't want to do some of the things that I'm doing, but I don't hate myself at the end of the day. Like, I love the work that I'm doing. And so that's what keeps me going, really.
Oh, thank you, Nutty. I'm gonna brag about you in a minute. Twyla, what keeps you going through what drives you to push forward through the tough times?
That's actually of something I would say, like, life has been happened to me, like so many opportunities that have like fallen into my lap. Like, I feel like God created me for a really important thing, or for many important things, and seeing the impact that.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Reminder. Oh, sorry. Am I coming back?
Yeah, you're back.
Am I back?
Yeah, a little bit better. Still a little choppy though.
Let me see. Maybe. Let me know if anything changes. Is this okay now?
Just keep going. Don't worry about
struggle?
it. Yeah.
Okay. But just kind of feeling like I'm not by myself, like feeling like it's not just about me, and that I'm being lifted or supported by God, by everyone that came before me. Like I just feel like in those moments, like I feel like I haven't had to go through what other people have had to go through, in a sense. And there, so therefore it kind of brings me to a space of like gratitude. Like, you know what, actually, like I think I'll be okay. So I feel like sometimes just a reminder that I'm not alone, I think helps me to push through. Because sometimes I think even just as an entrepreneur, you can feel really isolated, because sometimes the complaints that your friends or family have about the work they're doing and stuff, it doesn't necessarily correlate with what you're doing. So so it can be very isolating. And so yeah, I think just the reminder that like I'm gonna be okay because I've been okay before. And that I'm not alone. I think those two things help me through.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask the next question. And Twyla, you can take it and then it'll go the other way, just to give Joe a break this time. I got you. Did you always want to be in your profession?
So I always want to do music. Like music is like, it's literally like I see sound. Like everything about, everything about me, excuse me, has been music since I was born. And I thought everybody did. When I started to explain to people, musically how I process, they were like, nah, yo, that doesn't happen to me. And I was like, oh, so it's like, I couldn't help it. I'm always hearing a harmony of anything. Like, it's just, so it's almost like I had no choice. Like nothing else makes sense. And I have other skills, but it doesn't call me and it doesn't bring me fulfillment. Am I still breaking up?
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it doesn't call me the way that music has. So as a vocal coach, no, I didn't plan on necessarily being a vocal coach per se. It took me realizing that I like to work with people one-on-one and like understand how people process music as well and understand their voice before I realized that's what I wanted to do. But in general, I mean, with all the things I do musically, that's just what I've just kind of known that's something that I wanted to be in music as a whole.
Was it that flat alto in the choir that made you push to be a vocal coach?
Man, look, there's always somebody flat.
Oh man, Nessie, did you always want to be in your profession?
You know, I think my profession is kind of made up. So I don't, no, not always. I think I've always been in some sort of helping profession, or I always kind of knew that I was going to be in some sort of profession that would be helping people. But what that looked like exactly, I was not sure. You know, I think, you know, Shimona a little bit. I've dabbled in like politics a little bit here and there. And so really trying to figure out what that looks like for me, and not really enjoying politics in the way that it is right now, and knowing that I wanted to make a different kind of mark without having to follow, you know, politically correct rules, right? Not having to work within a bureaucracy, really having the ability to do what I think is right. And so, you know, I am in both positions. I am actually on the ballot right now. So I'm like, I dabble out of politics, but I am also on the ballot for the primaries in June for judicial delegate, right? Which is something along the lines where I know that this is more applicable to me, right? I help pick the next judges of the state, right? Without having to play politics. That's not the game that I'm interested in. Like, I actually want to create real change, and I don't want to, you know, have fake conversations. Like, I only want to have real conversations. Otherwise, I don't want to talk at all. And so for those of you who know me, I'm really introverted. I think that was one of your questions, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I will host all sorts of conversations, but it has to have real integrity behind it. And so I didn't always know what this was going to look like, but here I am.
Thank you, Nessie. Joe Herrera, did
Hey,
you always want to be the underdog?
not really.
Hyper.
Yeah, I heard the keyword ballot and I was like, Nessie, holla at me, girl. Holla at me. I can help you, especially now that, petitioning might start all over again since like there's all the district lines are thrown out the window. But anyway, yeah, have I always wanted? No, absolutely not. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. Like that's what I wanted as a kid. I want to be a Navy SEAL. It was, but if you think about it, right, it's just like, why did I want to be a Navy SEAL? Because I wanted to save lives. And for me as a kid, these were like the superheroes that were going off into the world to go and save lives undercover and new and new. So really, did I want to be a Navy SEAL or did I just want to save lives? I don't know. But I know that when I grew up and when I had kids, really at that point, like the only thing I cared about was what was going to give me the biggest paycheck and have a secure position, which was an accountant, which I was like, I'm going to go to college as a single dad and become an accountant. And if I ever would have become an accountant, I probably would have stapled my wrist to the desk because that's not what Joe was supposed to be, right? Joe was not supposed to be that. I think, I worked with you all at Families for Excellence Schools. And for me, the best way to change lives at that time was to advocate around education issues. For those of you on this call who were an organizer alongside me, I'm pretty sure we learned a lot about organizing and campaigning and changing lives. And we also learned that everything we were doing was probably not in the interest of the people that we were set out to serve. And after that collapsed, I learned a lot through that organization, but I still wanted to make change. And the way I thought was the way to do it was by electing new people to office. So I was trying to take everything that I learned in my past, right? One, I was an organizer. I love speaking to people. I love empowering them. I love putting them in a place to make change. Two, I was a lobbyist. I love going to Albany, hated talking to elected officials, realized that only thing they cared about was transactions, right? What can you give them to help them retain their seat so they can get reelected? We couldn't give them money. Unfortunately, people was never enough. It wasn't until a senator told me that they couldn't sign a support letter for a group of parents in Crown Heights because the teachers union would take away their funding. However, that senator sent their son and daughter to a private school for $40,000 a year to avoid the same public schools that they were telling these parents were just fine. Excuse me. So I say that because lobbying was the next thing. I knew that there needed to be a change. So in 2018, when the company went downhill, I started Underdog Strategies with my key was the way you make change and you make lives better is by electing good people to office. And that was the way to make change. So yes, I always wanted to make people's lives better. Did I ever want to be a consultant for a campaign advocacy organization? Not necessarily. And I realize now that politics also, electing one state assembly member or one state senator is not the way you're going to change the game. The actual way to change the game is to change the system, and electing someone to participate in that system is never going to change the game. You just got to throw the whole shit away, right? Sorry for the language, but yeah. So now politics is like not the way to change it. So now I'm looking for another way to just throw the whole shit away and everyone with it and start brand new. So I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and what I thought I wanted to be is not what I wanted to be, and what I am is not what I wanted to be, but I'm continuously searching for what I want to be and trying to learn what I need in order to make what I want to be happen, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
You are who you are. When I met you, I knew you were going to be a game changer eventually, because you were about your business. So you are who you are. And your next thing is not who you're gonna be when you grow up. It's your next level. So I've seen you grow in the years that I've met you. We grew together in a lot. So, you are who you are. Own that. You are the
I'm
co-founder of
actually happy to
Underdog.
participate in your next level, girl. Just
I'm
saying.
getting there. Believe it or not, when I'm here. I'm at where I'm supposed to be in this moment. I'll say that. And that's not always how I feel, but I feel in this moment to the energy that you guys have given me and the positivity is what I wanted from this call has been amazing. So we are 3 minutes out from time. I have one more question, but what I want to add to the conversation is that when I set out in the world, I wanted to be a journalist. And someone told me that my name was too ghetto. And I allowed that to discourage me for years because I'm like, how am I going to be on the news? My name's Shimona. And journalism has changed over the last 3 decades. Yeah. And now I get to be a journalist on my own terms. I get to create a Zoom room, have a YouTube page, and I am a journalist now, right? Full circle, right? Yay!
Period.
And on top of that, I was on the radio, WBAI with Denixa. So I was able to do that without even thinking about it. So sometimes when that feeling inside of you is telling you are who you are that. You just haven't gotten to that space yet. And yes, those hurdles and those barriers and those naysayers are going to be in the way and tell you, and those the vision may not be what you want. Maybe you said, I'm going to be president of the United States, but you end up being the vice president or secretary of state. Either way, you're positioning yourself as a political leader. And I only use that narrative because I have a lot of political people on the call tonight. But sometimes it may not look exactly how you want, but that feeling, that gut-wrenching feelings that you had, just like Nussie said, I knew I wanted to work with people. Joe said, I knew I wanted to make change. Twyla said, I breathe, I live, and I dream music. And everybody's in their capacity of where they felt. So always follow that feeling. The other thing I want to say, in the chat box, I put a link to a personal assessment called 16 Personalities. Now, you don't take these things literally, but they are very helpful in helping build your confidence and bringing awareness to your personality. The questions, you answer them based on your perspective at the time. Now, what I always tell people that I do this assessment with, your assessment can change from day to day, month to month, situation to situation, because your mood kind of sometimes change your answers. If you're in a bad mood, you may answer a people question a different way than you would when you're in a good mood. So if the first result you get doesn't seem similar to you, wait a couple of days and do it again. But it's a really cool thing. I love it. And it gives you 16 different personalities, but it gives you assessments based on various things, your love life, your personal life, your career, everything. And it's really cool tool to use. So right now we're at 9 o'clock. If you guys can give me 5 more minutes, I'm going to ask my panelists one more question before we go. Now, panelists, where can the listeners find you online? If they need your services, where can they find you online to follow what you're doing, support your mission, maybe get some of the services that you're providing, attend your events? Where can they find you online? Joe, and you guys can also put it in the chat box.
Sure. Thanks for that question. So if you all or anyone here looking to ever run for office or even run a campaign, anything, you want to share a message with the community, we do a lot of digital marketing and field work as well, but you can you can find our website at underdogs.nyc. Pretty cool website. Please check it out. Also, if you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at Joe's Era. I believe that's the way we spell it. So or Joe Herrera on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, so I think I'm on TikTok. I got all of the social media on lock. So please follow back. And if there's anything you ever want, any information on how community engagement, community organizing, how to run for office, I have a number of free workshops free decks and things like that. I'm happy to send you over anything from fundraising to running a field organizing program to voter contact to comms work, anything you all need. If you're looking to share information with your community or run for office, I'm happy to share that information. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe Herrera. Nussie, where can we find you online?
Yes, you can follow me. Well, you can follow I Am Perspective at I.am_perspective. I'm going to post my link tree for all the random websites you can find. Aside from I Am Perspective, I also write articles, cultural pieces, political pieces. And so I have a variety of things going on. So I'm going to post my link tree, and then you can always check out www.iamperspective.com to see the work that I'm doing with my organization.
Awesome. Thank you, Nussie. And Twyla, how can we find you online?
You can find me at For the Love of Music. Is my 86 is my name on Instagram. I also have a Facebook business page known as For the Love of Music. My personal page is Twilight Joy. Twilight spelled just like the books, and then JOI, Joy on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, everybody, everywhere.
However the link goes, right?
Yeah, so I'll send those over in the chat as well.
Awesome, thank you. And this is all recorded. So if anybody goes to my YouTube page, which is my name, Shimona Kirkland, so you can look me up on YouTube through Shimona Kirkland. I also have a Instagram page at Shimona K1, where you can find any information about Monday Night Chats with SK. And I'm Shimona Kirkland on Facebook. I'm Shimona Kirkland on Twitter. The brand, I am the brand. It's me. So
That's right.
You know me, then you know the brand. But I want to thank my panelists for jumping on, such amazing people. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Monday Night with SK and always supporting my many adventures. But that is the end of Monday Night Chat. And I want to thank our participants, our audience as well. We want to give you guys a hand clap for being participating
You welcome, Mona.
in the chat box. Thank you, Vance. You're welcome.
Mona, I want that girl right there. I want to sign up for music.
You want to sign up for what?
Music.
Oh, with Twyla? Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm happy to support you with that.
I want to sign up for music. I'm working my own music too. I write a song too. I got a song out too.
You got a song out?
Yeah, me and my friend working on it. I'm saying me and my friend rapping. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right, Vance the rapper.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vance. So
welcome.
everybody put their Instagram pages and Facebook and everything. You guys can find them. Again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Mayfield. Thank you, Vance. Thank you, Tanise. Thank you, Keisha. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Denixa. Joelle's in the house. Hey, Joelle. Say hi to the Monday Night Chatters. Joelle's gonna be one of my next panelists, so y'all be ready for him next Monday. He don't know it yet, but he is. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a
Take
good
care,
night.
guys.
Night.